Beautiful music. All right. Well, we're here with another episode of Word Slingers. I haven't streamed in a while, so bear with me, guys. I'm here with special guest Aaron Sparrow.
Hey Ben, how's it going? How you doing, everybody?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate the invite. I guess you invited me a while back, and I didn't see it, and I just ignored you. I
Just
promise you,
ignored
I
it.
didn't ignore you. I just didn't see it.
You were what's the term? Not high horsing me.
Oh, big timing,
Whatever. Big time in me.
big
There you
timing
go.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, like no, yeah, I'm so big time. Uh, I uh, I either like I either didn't see it or like sometimes I'll be like, yeah, no, sure, we should do that, and then like I'll forget. Um,
yeah. Right,
I think I told you, I said, remind me the day before. You're like, okay, we're all set. And I'm like, remind me before. So I like to
right.
remember to. And then I almost had a scheduling conflict, but fortunately it didn't
Yeah,
happen. So,
yeah. It's all right. If it didn't work out, we could have done it like whenever you came back from San Diego.
hmm but no, I'm glad we're doing it before San Diego. Yeah, next week is San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah. You excited about that? You go every year?
I go every year. The only time I missed it was when they did that one. It was like right after COVID, and they did that
Oh
off-season
yeah.
one that was like around Halloween. I didn't go to that. But I go every year. I mostly go because friends of mine want me to go, and they want to go.
Right.
And so like now because I've been going since I was 19 years old, and so
Nice.
like and I spent like 20 years like being part of the committee, and I just like I'm so just kind of like burnt out by San Diego as a it's just this monolith. But it's always fun to go. It's a fairly local show for me. It's only like an hour and a half away, and
Nice.
I know a lot of people there, and so it's good to get together and see people, and that's why I go. Like the show itself doesn't really hold any mystery for me anymore.
Right. Right. Well, this show is called Word Slingers because we like to talk about writing. And so I'd like to know like how you got into writing comic books and like how you got started in the business.
Well, I knew I wanted to do comics from a very early age. Like I started drawing my own comics with two friends of mine, Mike Watson and Mike Howard. In school, like we all got together and it was like, oh, you like comics? I like comics, and we could all draw, to varying degrees. So we were drawing like our own comics and like trying to amuse each other. And then my grandmother got this idea of like, I'll take Aaron to meet a real Marvel artist. I don't even remember who it was, but it was like somebody that was like doing a signings, and my grandmother took me to meet him. And I just could not have been more discouraged after that meeting. It was basically like
Oh
I
no.
always mind him smoking. He wasn't smoking, but I feel like in his heart he was, because he was just like he basically gave me the comics will break your heart kid,
Right, right.
and so I stopped drawing completely for years, and it wasn't. Yeah, but then I still wanted to tell stories, so eventually I decided that
Yeah.
I would try my hand at writing, and I kept trying to I was writing my own stuff and writing for various at the time it was like fanzines and things like that, um, and writing with a group of friends on these old Prodigy boards. And Prodigy started charging for messages, but what we discovered is if we all shared an account and we went into the mail system and we sent it to a nonsensical address, it would just kick it back and post it. The next person could come in and read
Nice.
it and then do like an addendum. And so we started doing like group stories that way. And so I honed my writing skills through that. And eventually I got word that they were hiring at Tokyo Pop for copy editors. And so I put in for that. I got in as a copy editor. Um, but when I would give them my copy edits, I would also like, because a lot of these things were taken from fairly dry translations. It was
Mm.
Tokyo Pop was for those that you don't know, it's a company that would bring manga over and translate it and then put it out for American audiences. And so you would get these really like dry translations. And so
Yeah.
I would try to find out like what it was that the author's intent was. What did the original Japanese say? What were they trying to convey? And then I would try to do that in a very like kind of Americanized conversational way so that it sounded right. So I would give notes like, you could change this to this and it would sound better. You could change to this and it would sound better. And eventually the editors were like, well, we're going to cut out this middleman, because what we're doing is we're paying a translator, then we're paying somebody to rewrite the script based off that translation, and then
Right.
you're editing it and rewriting it again. So we're just going to cut out the middleman, and we're going to have you just take the translation and do your thing. And
Nice.
so I started doing that, and that's how I got like my first published works.
Cool. So where did your career go from there?
So from there, like I got to do a couple of really cool things. Like I got to write a couple of original stories. Like one for they did a Blizzard manga, and one of my stories got approved, and they put it in one of the anthologies. It was much bigger. I had to pare it down because there was some talk that like maybe it could be its own book, but then it was like, okay, it's just gonna be one chapter in this book. So I had to pare it down. But Blizzard kept going like, I was turning in things that were fairly subtle, storytelling, and Blizzard was like, bigger, go, so like it just became like this big, and the heavens will tremble at my fury kind of story. Unfortunately, I didn't get to work directly with the artist, so a lot of the things that I was trying to put into the script didn't completely come through in the art the way that I saw them. So that was my first like big experience with, like I prefer to work hands-on with the artist. And so from there, I went to a toy company, and then when that toy company started to fold, I had a couple of interviews with Boom Studios, and we could just never meet on the money. And so the toy company I was with was going through a lot of problems because, of the owner and some really stupid decisions that he had made. And it was really kind of like a miserable working environment. So I reached out to Boom again, and I said, hey, do you guys have anything, like I'm kind of like interested in talking about this again. And they had like kind of upped the pay, not to a great level, but to a level I could live with, at least temporarily. And so they, had me in for an interview. So I left Toy Rocket on Friday and went and interviewed. Like that was my last day at Toy Rocket, although the owner wanted me to come back like under the table or something. And I went to Boom on Monday and had my interview, and they were like, well, can you start today? And they sent the secretary out to get a laptop and I found out what I was going to be doing there, because when I went to interview, the first time I'd been through the interview, it was for like Warhammer, and then but the money wasn't there. And then the second time it was for something else, and the third time, when they actually hired me and where I accepted the job, was they said we have the Disney license, and I said like the Disney Standards license and the Pixar license and the Muppets license, and I was like, oh wow, like what do you have under the Standards license? I was a big Pixar fan at the time too, so I was excited about that. I've always loved the Muppets, so I was excited about that. But I was like, what standards do you have? And they said, well, the whole like Standards catalog. And I was like, do you have Darkwing Duck? And they asked me like, what is that? And so I was like, oh, okay. Wow. Right, well, it's this superhero duck and blah blah blah. And I'd always had a thing in the back of my head, because I was such a fan of the show, that if I ever got a chance to do like a comic revival, and I like. This is like a fantasy. I had no idea at that point that I was even going to end up working at a comic company, but I was like, man, it'd be cool to do a Darkwing comic and like bring the character back and do a like the Duck Knight Returns. I already had like the cover, aping the classic Frank Miller book in my head. I had all these ideas. And so after fighting with them for about 9 months, and I don't mean Disney, I mean Boom.
Okay.
Like Disney was really eager to do it. Like I talked to Jesse Post, who was the liaison at Disney Publishing, and I was like, I'm really trying to get him to do Darkwing Duck, and he's like, that'd be great. He's like, I used to do I used to hire the people to do the Darkwing Duck comics for Disney Adventures, and
that's cool.
Do the Disney Afternoon stuff. And he goes, I think you guys should do Disney Afternoon. So Disney was really on board. It was convincing the higher ups at Boom that I knew what I was talking about.
Right.
And it's just one of those situations where you're like, I'm the only one that's coming in here with like comic book editorial experience already. Right. From Tokyo Pop, but I'm being told by a managing editor who never, was never an editor. He basically he did the ordering at Meltdown Comics in LA. That was his job qualification, to be the managing editor of a comic company. And this is a guy who at one point came out. We were all doing a proofread of the one of the Muppet comics so that we could get it off to print. I know I'm doing an aside, but we were sending it off to go off to print, and there were some references to the Lost TV show in there, and he came out and he was like, why are there pop culture references in this? It's supposed to be a King Arthur story. And we're like, have you ever seen the Muppets? And of course he hadn't seen a Pixar movie, blah blah blah, but he was there to tell me how to do the job. So it was pretty funny. And so so I did that, and that was a big success. And then had the falling out with Boom. From there, went on to work at Ape Entertainment, was doing DreamWorks and Sesame Workshop stuff. Some Richie Rich, some of those kids' books, and then just started freelancing. And what happened was then Boom lost the license like shortly after I was gone. They sent a message to Pixar, who I had just been up to Pixar and basically like saved the business for them, because Pixar was ready to pull the license because of some mistakes that they had made and some contentious phone calls that had happened between Boom leadership and the Pixar people. And so I had to go up and have this creative meeting and smooth everything out. And I really jived, like when I went up there, really jived with the Pixar people. We came up with a bunch of storyboards to kind of keep everything, smooth for like a year. And then a week after that, once all the ducks were in a row, no pun intended, and Boom had like my outline for another year of Darkwing Duck that they could feed to somebody else. They fired me, and I got told by like later I met up with it was like maybe like a month later at San Diego Comic-Con. I ran into Ben Butcher from Pixar, who I'd had the meeting with, and he said, "What happened?" And so I told him like what happened. And he goes, well, just from our end, he goes, let me tell you what happened on our end. He goes, they sent us an email saying, well, we've let Aaron go, and this is the new person that you're going to be working with. And he goes, and our message was, the message I sent back was just, well, we at Pixar are all obviously very disappointed with your decision. And he goes, and we pulled the license.
Wow.
So, they shot themselves in the foot.
Right.
Just because the managing editor didn't like me. And I'm not making any excuses.
Yeah.
I was not the easiest person to work with because I was butting my head up against approvals with Disney, which was already aggravating. But that's something I could have dealt with. What was hard was when you're butting your head up against the people that are supposed to be on your team, but they don't know what they're talking about. And they're trying to give you direction, and they're trying to force people onto you to have them submit to Pixar. And then when Pixar rejects the stories, they're getting mad at you because you should have gotten that through. And I'm like, I can't control. I told you this was a bad idea. I told you I had approved stories over here from these writers, but you wanted to force these writers, and they haven't turned in anything that Pixar wants.
Yeah.
I massaged it the best I could, but it's just like one of those decisions. So
that's terrible. What reason did they give for letting you go?
Well, I mean, they
like the official reason,
they were promoting the managing editor. And he said, if I'm going to run this place, like I need to run it my way, and I can't run it with him because like I didn't respect him. He hadn't earned my respect. I still, so that was the stated reason. But it came a week after I had gone in and had some tests done because I was having a lot of stomach pain. And the doctor, I had to go back into Boom and say like, hey, I might need a couple of days off to run some further tests because the doctor said best case scenario, I might have an ulcer. Worst case scenario, I might have stomach cancer. So they wanted, do more blood work and do some scans and whatever it is that they do. I don't know. But it was a week after that. So I think they just didn't want to, take the chance that I might actually have some medical problems. So
that's terrible.
But they did offer me $800 severance, because they wanted to take care of me.
Oh, all $800.
All $800. Yeah. And it came with like this rigid NDA. Attached to it. And I just turned it around and I slid it back and I said, I think you guys need this $800 more than I do.
Right. Yeah. That's a slap in the face. That's terrible.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So not a great company to work for.
All right. So where did you go from there?
So from there, I went to New York Comic Con that year, and I ended up talking to David Hedgecock over at Ape Entertainment. And, we had a really good conversation. And then he and Brent Irwin ended up hiring me to work with them. And so I worked with them for a while until that company ended. Comics is a tough business, especially if you're a small publisher, and it's tough to get noticed, especially if you're doing kids comics. Stuff that's you're trying to draw kids into reading so that they'll develop a love of comics. But retailers don't really support that for the most part. Or they have a kids section that's like in the back that you can't find.
Right.
They don't rack the stuff where people can find it. So it was an uphill battle all the way, and we were doing some great stuff. So I ended up there. And then after that, that's when Joe Books got the license for Darkwing Duck and some of the other Disney properties. And Disney Publishing, they wanted to republish the Boom material, and because it had been successful. And Disney Publishing apparently told them, well, you can reprint this, but you need to restore the original scripts by Sparrow and Solani. So they came back to Solani and I, and we went through and we restored all the of like what our vision for the book was. And and then when it came out, of course, it was much more well received. And people were like, "Oh, this is much better," because it was actually written in character voice as opposed to one editor's voice, in all the characters. It actually felt like the show, as was always our intention.
That's awesome. Did you guys ever do a Justice Ducks? Kind of a team book.
There's a lot of stuff we were building towards, but Boom had no vision, and then of course I was out of there, and so I didn't have any influence to get anything done. And then at Joe Books, I suggested a lot of things, but they were so small that like they only had the bandwidth for so much. Like we couldn't
Okay.
even really do interviews because they didn't have the bandwidth to do the approvals for the interview.
Really?
Yeah, so it's
Wow.
like we had no way to promote the book the second time around, but it was still
Yeah.
really well received and it did well. But then because they didn't have the bandwidth, they were like, well, we think we're going to try to do this Pirates of the Caribbean book, and so we're going to put you on hiatus and put the resources into this because they thought it would sell better, and it didn't.
Right.
It sold much worse, and then the company went under shortly thereafter.
Right. Yeah. It's a different audience.
So it turns out that guy was right. Comics will break your heart.
Yeah.
Go be a dentist, kid. You don't want to be a comics kid.
Right. So as far as writing goes, like how do you write? What's your writing philosophy? What's your writing schedule?
Well, the nice thing about being a writer is you don't have to have a schedule. It's just whenever you force yourself to sit down, and I've never had writer's block in the sense of I'm just sitting staring at the page.
Right.
My writer's block is I have to force myself to sit down in front of the computer and start typing, even if I'm not feeling it. And I find that if you can get through like 10 minutes of like just writing the worst crap that you're not feeling, it'll kick over and you'll get into a flow and then it'll happen from there. So that's kind of how I do it. I write better late at night than I do, maybe in the day. I'm more of a night person creatively. So, that's like kind of like my time to do it.
Yeah. How do you break a script down for a comic book?
So generally what I do is I figure out I have to, whatever my inspiration is, like whether it's a great opening sequence or I know it, I have to know what the beginning and the end are.
Okay.
And then I do a book map or a pagination where I kind of plot out how many pages do I need for the opening, how many pages do I need for the ending, and then I fill in the middle. And so it's like I know what my big moments are, and then how do I bridge the gap? So
Right.
and that's how I break down like an issue of comics. Otherwise, like for a full story, then I do like an outline, like first issue this happens, second issue this happens, third issue this happens, fourth issue this happens. And so I have like a roadmap of where I'm going, but then from there it's pretty free.
Nice. If you were to give advice to an aspiring writer, what would you say?
Well, if you're trying to break into the mainstream comic book industry, I would say don't. Because here's the thing: it's like I would tell people all the time, and they'd say, "How do you break into the industry?" This is when the industry was much healthier. I would say, if you can do anything else on this earth as a career and be happy, do that,
Right.
and then do comics on the side as a hobby. But if you can't do anything else and be happy, just know it's a really hard industry to get into. It's a really hard industry to stay in. It's tough to keep keep going with your editors. Unless you're just totally like a pet of one of the editors, it's going to be tough. So just know that going in. That you're going to like probably especially when you're young, you're going to be sleeping on some garage, some air mattresses in a garage, like while you're trying to make things happen. But now the game has totally changed. So now I tell people, like I know you have your creator-owned book out, sequence
Right.
that you're doing over on Fund My Comic. I tell people like just do the comic yourself. Get an audience, get some eyes on it, and do it yourself. Own your own IP. Get out there and tell your story. Don't give your best ideas to some corporation
Right.
that's gonna look at Rob Liefeld. Now he's got a sweetheart deal as far as anybody else in the industry where he continues to make a percentage off of those characters in any way that they use them. But not everybody has that, and you saw how like Rob got treated at the red carpet for Wolverine and Deadpool. Like he and his family didn't even get to go to the after party because they weren't.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. The movie has made you over $1 billion, and this is how you treat the guy that co-created the characters.
Right. Now, as an editor, what advice do you have for indie comic creators out there?
Get an editor. Especially if you're especially if you're doing this for the first time or you're still like early in career. Actually, even like some of the guys have like been pros for a long time, but they've been artists and not necessarily writers. It's like I've ordered some of their books and I read them and I'm like, ooh, like you really needed like somebody to kind of like help you streamline this. And everybody's kind of afraid of like the editor, like the in the indie space. It seems like they think that an editor is going to come in and fundamentally change everything that you want to do and tell you to do something different.
Right.
I mean, maybe there are editors that work that way, but the way that I work, the way that other editors I know work, like Joe Corallo is a great editor. Jesse Blay Snyder is a great editor. What they do is they help you find the best version of your work. So, for example, I'm an experienced editor. I sent my book around to a couple of people. Jesse Snyder is one of the people that gave me the best notes. He came back and he said, when you told me the initial premise for Kneel Before Doomface, he said, I was really interested. And he goes, but the script takes too long to get me to the part that I was interested in.
Mm,
And so I went back and I looked at it and I was like, he's right. And so then I rewrote it, and then it was much better. And then I restructured it, I rewrote it, and it was much better. And then when Silvani read it, he said, I kind of wanted to I kind of wanted more of an opening, like more of a build before we get to kind of the. And so I took that into account, and I came up with an idea to do like the 8-page prologue, which actually shows the night that he was defeated in the 1980s and he was banished. And now that's the prologue, and that sets up the rest of the book. So you get a little piece of the past, a little piece of the present. And so I think everybody needs those extra eyes on there, because when you're working on your own stuff, you have blind spots. You will there's things that make sense in your head with the story because you know it all, but maybe you didn't necessarily get that down on the page, or you didn't get it, or you were too subtle. You didn't get it down in enough a way that the reader can pick up on it. So it's good to have extra eyes on your book, whether that's an editor or that's a group of friends that have good storytelling ability themselves to kind of look at it from that perspective.
Yeah. What are the core issues that you see as far as indie comics go, needing an editor? Like, what are the common ones? Common issues?
Story structure, dialogue that is exposition and not actually dialogue. That's a big one. You can certainly do exposition in conversation, but there's a way to do it and have it be more seamless. Have it be kind of like you go in with a deft hand and you kind of craft it to how people actually speak, and what can you get away with taking away that makes it feel unnatural and still get the point across. There's a saying, brevity is the soul of wit. And it's also the soul, that's just comic books. Like, get it across in as few words as possible. The least amount of words with the most amount of impact is what you're trying to do in the dialogue and in your captions, in everything. Now, granted, that is going to seem like hypocritical coming from me, who has written very verbose characters like Darkwing Duck and now Doomface. Characters that are always kind of like overly flowery in their language and their prose. But believe me, I do it, and even on this last round of lettering that we did on Doomface, I went through and I cut out like a lot of stuff just to give the panels more room, to show more of the art. Like, I was like, I can lose some of this, and the reader will never know. The only person that will ever know will be me.
Right. Well, here it is. Speak of the devil. Kneel before Doomface.
Yeah, this is such a. I'm so like, I see that we got a comment from Christopher Bouchard. He said, Doomface is an awesome character design, and are the books available? They're not available yet. They're available for pre-order. Backer kit should be out today. I've got to reach out to my campaign manager and make sure that everything got approved and that we sent it out. But backer kit should be out today, so like you can get your pre-order in. We're going to have a couple of weeks of backer kit, and then once we send the book off to the printer, everybody who ordered it is going to get their digital copy. So before you get your digital copies, you'll be able to read it and and kind of like engage with it, and hopefully I'd love to like hear some feedback, and I hope that people like it, because we put a ton of work into it. It's got beautiful, obviously we've got some beautiful covers by like Nate Watson. This one here,
Roquefort.
Kenneth Roquefort, who just did it. Like, it was so great how that came together. And
how did you get him?
Kenneth is such a great guy. I was talking to him about some other things, because I had offered to edit Broken a few times because I love his work so much. And I had offered, and that's kind of like his baby. And so I think he was like kind of like reticent to have anybody involved with that. But we just kind of like kept in touch, and and then he was like thinking of doing some other things. And he had seen Doomface, and he asked me like, what is this about? And so I kind of told him the presence, told him the
premise.
The premise. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got carb brain right now.
I understand.
So I told him the premise, and he was like, "Oh, I really like the designs, and I really like the idea of it." And he goes, "I'd love to do a cover." And I was like, "Well, I'd love to have you do a cover, but I don't think I can afford you." I was laughing. I was like, "I don't think I can afford you," and because we haven't even launched the campaign, and And he goes, we'll figure something out. He goes like, I want to have you do some writing or some editing for me on some other projects. So like when I have those ready, like I'll hit you up and we can just trade. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I thought, all right, well that's pretty neat. And then 2 days later, or like a day later, he was sending me his roughs. And then
Wow.
2 days later, I had the completed cover. That's how fast he is. And look
That
how
is
gorgeous it is.
insane.
Yeah,
Did
it's amazing.
did he color this himself?
He did, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I know he could have a career just as a colorist if he didn't want to draw anymore.
Yeah.
But thankfully for all of us, he still he still draws.
Right. He does it all.
That's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember his work on was it Cyberforce that he did like back in the day for Image?
Yeah, well, he did. The first thing I ever saw him on was Madame Mirage with Paul Dini, and that was
Okay.
an Image, and that book was
Okay.
gorgeous. Like the moment I saw that, I was like, this guy is going to be huge, and obviously he is. But yeah, that's the first place that I saw it. I think he probably did some stuff over there. Like I don't remember exactly everything, but
Yeah.
because in my head, like I'm trying to like what did he do over at Image? But I keep pulling up in my brain, I keep pulling up Ballistic by Michael Turner. Like the first time I saw him on it.
Right.
So
Yeah. This is a beautiful cover. All right, let's see what else we got here.
that's
Oh,
from
nice.
the first page of the prologue. That is the splash page of back in the '80s. Doomface fighting the heroes. He's on the verge of ultimate triumph. So this is you actually with this version of the book, you get the 8-page story of how Doomface was brought down in the 1980s and banished to the timeless void.
Yeah, so give us the premise of the book. What's the story here?
So the story is Doomface is a bit like I've always loved like '80s cartoons villains. Give me your Skeletors, your Hordaks, your
Yeah.
from the Ghostbusters with the gorilla, Mumra, all the Cobra Commander, all those over the top villains.
Right.
And so I wanted to do something with a villain like that, but I also had this idea in my head for the heroes that I'd had for a really long time, years and years. I had a couple of hero characters that I wanted to use. But as I was developing that, because I was like, man, crowdfunding's really taken off. You have the chance to like really, do your own thing and have people support you and go direct to consumer. And so I was writing kind of the superhero story, and I was just like, something's missing. Like it's not enough to stand out in like a crowded field of superhero books. And it's not really a superhero book per se, because it's more of a comedic book like The Tick or The Venture Brothers, or it's more along those lines. And so it wasn't a straight superhero book. And I was like, yeah, it's not working, and I can't think of a good title for it. I'm going to just shift gears and I'm going to work on some of the villains, and then maybe the story will come to me. And that's what I always do when I kind of like get stuck on a problem, is I go and I work on some other piece of it or something else, and then the back of your subconscious, like the solution usually comes. So as I was coming up with villains, I was like, I want to do a Doctor Doom style villain, and then I was like, but like tie in some like Skeletor stuff, and then I came up with the name Doomface. And I thought it was funny because I was like, you can have a villain. It's a dumb name,
Right.
but like you can have the villain say, "I am Doomface," or "I am the face of your doom." Because I always like when you oversell something.
Right.
An example I used the other night was in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. There's a moment where Captain Hammer is telling him he's going to take out the girl that he likes, and he's like, "I'm going to take her back to the ham cave, show her the ham jet, show her the ham cycle, and then I'm going to show her the hammer." And he puts his fist up and he goes, "And these are not the hammer." And he walks away. And we all know what he's saying, right?
Right.
But then a second later, Nathan Fillion, and he's so good, he walks back in all insecure and he goes, the hammer is my penis.
Right.
Like you didn't get, in case you didn't get like the great joke I was making, here's the punchline. So
Right.
I kind of like that with Doomface, I am the face of your doom, because it's kind of like, we get it,
Yeah.
And then from there, I cobbled together a bunch of reference material of like kind of what I wanted from the villain. And at the time I was doing an art swap. James Silvani was swapping with Tim Lim, and so Tim Lim was going to do some rough character designs, and so he did a couple of characters for me, and Doomface was one of them based on all the reference I said. He tied it all together, and that was the one out of the three that he gave me. That was the one that I used, and
Nice.
So then I gave it to Renzo when Renzo came on the book, and Renzo kind of did his version of it and added some details, made him bigger and more robust. Like he's thicker now, and really made it his own. So that's how we arrived at that character and the premise of the book. And then once I had Doomface, I was like, man, you know what if I tell the book through the villain's perspective?
Oh, cool.
And so the villain story is the A story, the hero story is the B story, and eventually those two are on a collision course. But the the book really came together when we added Lexi in as Doomface's major domo, because then I knew what the relationships were and I knew how that worked, and then I knew how the hero story would play, and I knew how they all tangled together. So once I did that, it all kind of came together. And then the only thing I needed was a title. And after bouncing back and forth through various titles, I settled on Kneel Before Doomface.
Nice. See, Chris says, and you did Darkwing Duck. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I loved it. Darkwing is the only like real mainstream thing that I would go back and do no matter what the pay was, just because I love that character so much. But we've talked about doing like a you know how John Byrne went off and did his X-Men fan project,
Right.
where he
Yeah.
did his own version, independent of Marvel. Solvani and I have talked about doing our own finishing our Darkwing Duck story that way, because
cool.
we'd really like to tell it and not have a bunch of stupid restrictions, or whatever Disney's current rules are, current things
Right.
you can or can't do, current jokes you can't make, current references you can't do. We just would like to be able to tell a good story and have the freedom. And obviously, we respect the character, so it's not like we're going to do anything out of bounds, with
Right.
the character. But just to be able to have that freedom to do your own fan project and get it to people the way that you want it, with no kind of approval.
Oppressive oversight.
Yeah, because a lot of times approvals, I mean, sometimes you'll get something and it'll make you think of something better, and that's good. But a lot of times it just nerfs your story, or it nerfs your joke.
Yeah. Justin says he's done Cyberforce and Superman, I think. Okay.
Yeah, some great stuff on Superman. I actually bought the Cyborg Superman action figure from McFarlane that's based off of his art because I love it so much.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, so he's an 80s bad guy, and
oh yeah, so he's an 80s villain. On the night of his, he was on the verge of his ultimate triumph, and he's betrayed and banished to the timeless void. And then we fast forward 40 plus years to the present day. 2024 exactly is when the story opens, and there's a Ghost Adventures style reality show, and they're in the sanctum of Alistair Thorne, who is the sorcerer who helped banish him, and they knock over a certain artifact in their clumsiness, and then that breaks open, and once that's broken, Doomface is able to return to our plane and promises he finds out that he's been gone 40 years, and decides he needs to reestablish himself, and so he takes on the show's producer Lexi as his major domo, and she's media savvy, and she's also like a sassy little Latina. And so, she kind of gives him a run for his money, but he needs someone to walk him through this new world and to kind of catch him up, and to, be there to ask questions of, because obviously he doesn't know you can just use the internet. But also, he decides at some point in the book he decides he's going to train her to be a supervillain, and so
that's cool.
It's a story of her trying to break the supervillain glass ceiling. It's a story of him, trying to regain his place, and then on the hero side, it's a story of two small town heroes who come to the big city and quickly find out, the meta commentary on that side is that they quickly find out that trying to break into being big city superheroes and just trying to help people is a lot like trying to break into the modern day comic book industry and just wanting to tell good stories. It's like you get a lot of resistance from the inside. So the first things that they're butting their heads up against are not necessarily supervillains, but the other superheroes.
Gotcha. Right. That's awesome. And Doomface is like this boomer villain coming into our time, and
yeah, he's very old world. So there's obviously things he doesn't understand and things he won't put up with. And then even on the hero side, like on this page right here that you're showing off, you can see Colonel Silverstreak there, who's our Nick Fury, Captain America, American murder machine, super soldier. They thaw him out whenever there's a major threat. So he has gaps in his memory. So he's kind of like, it's funny, he's opposed to Doomface, but in a lot of ways they have a lot of similarities because neither one of them is currently of the time that they're in.
That's awesome.
So it'll let me do a lot of now this page, if we'd hit the initial funding goal of 22,000 during the main campaign, this would have been this page would have been in there, but now this has been pushed to book 2. So there's a couple pages in here that are now book 2 because of where we had to split it.
Okay.
So Lexi doesn't get her full costume until issue 2, even though she's on the cover of issue 1 with the costume.
Right. This is great artwork.
Yeah, Renzo's so good, and I think this might be the first page that Renzo drew, because we were skipping around for pages that would be part of the campaign. Like we wanted to show off for the campaign, as opposed to doing them in linear order. So there was a lot of bouncing around. So that's why you have a page two or a book two page here now.
Right.
But he's so good. Like the moment he first drew Lexi and her facial expressions, I was like, oh, this is the guy.
Yeah. And he draws backgrounds.
I've actually tried to stop him from drawing so many backgrounds, but he can't. He's a wild man. He's too good, and he's too he loves what he does. He loves the craft. He loves the amount of detail that he can put in and the amount of fun that he can have. Actually, in the final book, that page two, that's now flipped. That last panel is now flipped, so
Okay.
that Lexi is on the left
Right.
and Doomface is on the right. Yeah. So like
Okay.
as I'm looking at it. So yeah. So it's you'll get to see like we've got like a Memoirs of the Void add-on where it's like behind the scenes and we'll talk about all kinds of little like technical adjustments and things like that we do.
Is this one of the new heroes, young heroes?
Yeah. So actually, Iggy, the inflatable iguana, there is the hero, and Notorious KID, whose name is Spam, is he's actually the sidekick. But
Oh, really?
because
Okay.
because of the way that like he's just backing his friend's play, like and so it's kind of their dynamic is kind of funny because obviously everybody assumes that Spam is the hero. And
Yeah, yeah.
Iggy is the the weird sidekick,
The sidekick.
but
Yeah.
but actually Iggy's our character with the heart of gold.
Awesome.
And Spam is just motivated by he's kind of a himbo, but he is redeemable in the sense that like Iggy is his best friend and he is gonna back him up. He's seriously got his back. So
That is fun.
and then this page is also moved to issue 2. This is the reveal of the first major obstacle on the hero side that Spam and Iggy have to face, which is the Social Justice League. And so it's in the end days of 2024, and their influence is waning, and so they're trying to like take down some big fish in very spectacular fashion, so that they can kind of like hang on to their relevance. And they're led by the White Knight.
Awesome. The White Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. That's a nice cover.
Yeah, that's great. That's one of the first images that Renzo did. I said, do something like this, and he did it, and I was like, and I just wanted it for like an ad sketch,
Right.
but it was so good. And then once Oscar colored it, it was so good. I was like, well, that's a cover. And that's what happens with a lot of Renzo's work. Is he'll give me something that's just like meant for, an ad or for some kind of like little character piece, and I'm like, it's too good. It's a cover. And so that's our hero cover right there with Spam and Iggy standing over the city.
Nice. Yeah, when I saw this cover the other day, I did not even see Iggy up there.
He kind of blends in. You got to look for him.
Yeah, that's awesome though.
But I love that he's. Anytime a character's cutting into the logo, I like it.
Yeah.
And then that's our Virgin cover that has all 4 of our main characters on it. Doomface looming in the background, and then Lexi doesn't like heights, so.
Nice.
That's our Captain America homage.
Colonel Silverstreak.
Taking out the new axis of evil.
Right.
So you got the World Economic Forum in there. You got George Soros. You got Anthony Fauci. You got Justin Trudeau. Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Yeah.
But I always wanted to do a Captain America #1 homage, so it was that came together really. It was really fun to do that one.
That's funny. Is that the Canadian flag peeling off and revealing
revealing the communist flag behind it?
Right, the communist flag. Yeah, the sickle back there. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And especially now that Justin Trudeau's gone, it's an interesting relic of 2024.
Operation Dirty Windows. That's cool.
This is the kind of classy kind of hood cover. This is actually Renzo recently did a redraw on this and softened Lexi's face because he's just gotten so much better with her and her expressions. He went in and he softened her face, and so the final cover, she's cuter than this.
Nice.
Same expression, but she looks cuter. This is by Nathan Watson. This is the Keys to the Throne cover. This is like just kind of like sets up the relationship between Lexi and Doomface.
Very cool. Oh, this is nice.
Yeah, our Colonel Silverstreak cover. This is based off a sketch for a previous project that Nate and I worked on, and it was just such a good layout that I was like, I don't want it to go to waste. Let's do it with Silver Streak. And man, he killed it. And again, colors by Oscar, just making the whole thing pop.
Yeah, it's giving me like Captain America / Daredevil vibes.
Yeah, just such a great angle, like and you can always he will eventually fight some ninjas in the book.
That's really cool.
This is by Lionel Castellani. This is our like old school like Vault of Horror. So this will I want to do a cover that looked like an old timey horror magazine. So we'll have basically like a pristine and then like a vintage version that's weathered and looks like it's got like coffee stains and binding tears and things like that.
Right. That's just beautiful. I love that painting.
It's so Lionel is so damn good. He and I did a pitch for Justice League Unlimited at DC. That
really?
Yeah, unfortunately fell through the cracks. I wrote an entire second issue spec script. And he drew like 5 pages of it and colored it, and then we had Darren Bennett do the lettering on it, and it was great. You can still find it on it's up on Twitter.
Okay.
If you just type my name and like Batman #Batman Day, it should come up.
Okay, cool.
But you can read that. It was 5 pages that we did. That it would have been fun.
Have to check that out. Yeah, this is beautiful. Really nice.
Yeah, then there's the little mock-up of the more like the version that looks damaged.
Right.
And then there's the Rocafort cover that everybody knows.
Right. Yeah, this is a good looking book, man.
Mm-hmm. And then that's the Memoirs of the Void. Just got a little bit of a different background. That's going to be the our making of. So there'll be a lot of like bells and whistles, character designs, behind the scenes stuff that'll be in there for people who are interested in that sort of thing.
Nice. Awesome. Well, the link is down in the description. So anybody out there who watches this on replay, you can just go down there and hit that link. It'll take you straight to Kickstarter.
Yeah, and we're about halfway done with the inks on issue 2 already. So
cool.
As soon as we have these back from the printer and we start fulfilling, we're going to do the campaign for number 2.
Awesome.
We've got like
it's really cool.
Busts that you could order.
Yeah.
I tried to make it, since it was my first campaign, I tried to make it as interesting as possible. Maybe we did too many variant covers. I don't know. Like it doesn't seem like people are mad or they were like, "There's too many." But I might cut down the number of the covers on the second book, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, that's really cool.
If I keep getting amazingly talented people like Kenneth Rocafort who are like, "I want to do a cover,"
right? Yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
The more, the merrier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've got a cover I'm waiting to show off. It's by Renzo. And Ross the Red is actually doing the coloring on it, but it's kind of like our Marvel Capcom style cover.
Oh, nice!
Too. And I can't wait for the colors to come in on that. I'm so excited to see it. You can even get a metal print of the.
That's cool. Metal print
cover, or any campaign variant. So if you're like, I want the Lexi mugshot one in a metal print, you can get that.
Right. That is awesome. Oh, commissions sold out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you get a little piece of art with there's still a couple slots left for Sylvani.
Okay. Did Sylvani do the art on Darkwing Duck?
Yeah, he was my partner on Darkwing Duck. He did every issue of the series that we did.
Okay.
And he was actually it was Doomface was a book I was first talking to him about doing. But he was working on his pirate book at the time, and then like character designs, we were going back and forth, and then it just became obvious like the timeline wasn't going to work out. And so once I started working with Renzo, and then I asked Renzo like, would you be interested in doing this book with me? And I kind of presented it to him, and he was like excited about it because he would get a chance to do like cartoony stuff,
right?
And really kind of like stretch his or spread his wings as far as what he'd been doing in the industry. And it's just worked out great. He's such a great. Bookie and Oscar are just such great people to work with. It's really been an easy, an easy production process with the two of them.
That's good. That's great.
And then I can't say enough about like the campaign was set up by Murphy, who I worked with over at Merck Publishing. She's my campaign manager on all of this, and she just did a bang up job for me. So like everybody on the team has been just spectacular. We just got our letters in from Darren Bennett, who's over at And World Design, best letters in the business, and
Awesome.
yeah, he turned in. He just did, like the thing I love about Darren is like I've worked with him enough now that I know what to expect, but what I expect is that he's always going to knock it out of the park. Um, Part of the mark of a good letterer is you don't know, they're kind of unsung heroes because you don't notice their
Right.
work if they did it right. Um, and then if they did it wrong, you do notice it and it messes up the
Yeah.
book. So it's like an interesting line that the letterer has to walk. It's either you do your job well for no credit, or everybody knows who you are, but for the wrong reasons.
Right.
The neat thing about Darren is he's been doing it enough that like he will give you these big like bombastic moments. Like I didn't ask him to when King Manaconda, you get the splash page with him for the first time. I didn't ask him to do a logo for King Manaconda's name, but he just went in there and did it. So it's like
That's
he's got all
cool.
this dialogue, and then King Manaconda, and that's actually a logo, so it pops even more and gives more drama to
Yeah.
to the moment. He's really exceptional at that sort of thing.
That's really cool. And I like it when they do that in comics when each character has their own logo.
Yeah, it's like it just adds a bit. It's like, oh, this character is important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you're watching a movie and a new character gets introduced and they have their own music, their own theme.
Yeah, or you even get the Danny Boyle moment where they freeze frame it and they put the guy's name on the screen, like
Yeah, yeah.
Brick Top, and you're like, oh, okay,
Right.
Bullet Tooth Tony.
Bullet Tooth, yeah. This is awesome. Is there any certain tier that you recommend?
I mean, I'm just happy for anybody. Like, we've had such a good response to it in a very crowded time. I had no idea how well the campaign was going to do. We're over 22.5 now, which is great. And then once backer kit goes out, people can add on to their order, so we'll probably bring in a little bit more. But it's just all gone back into the production of the book. I mean, the only the only money that I've gotten out of this is I reimbursed myself for some of the initial expenses. But
Right.
otherwise, everything in the campaign has gone to pay the talent and to make the book. So I want to get to a point where we're self-sufficient. So the book is completely done. Like we're finishing it as the campaign is launched, and we're done. As soon as when the campaign ends, we can do our backer kit almost immediately. We can get the numbers all together, and then get the book out to people in a timely fashion. I want to be on a regular production schedule with this because we got a lot of stories to tell, and I want people to be able to get it on a consistent basis and not lose their excitement or their enthusiasm.
Right. How consistent do you think you'll be? Like how many issues per year?
What I'd like to get to is 3 to 4 issues per year.
Okay. It's like
I
quarterly.
think that would be doable. Yeah. I think 3 is probably a little more realistic because you've got to.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to have like a fill-in artist. I want Renzo to do every single book. So 3 might be the best way to go to give him like a little bit of breathing room to allow for things like either health problems or your kids are sick or like whatever it is that life throws at you.
Right.
So probably 3 a year would be completely satisfying, and I think enough to keep people. So that like when they get the new issue, they're not going, "What happened in the last issue?"
Yeah. This is great stuff, Aaron.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Ben. It's been an absolute blast. It's the most fun I've ever had. And it's funny because people are asking, like, they're like, oh, are you excited? The first issue's done, and you guys are in post production, and you're just doing all the little bells and whistles and getting it off to print. Are you excited? And I'm like, I am. There's a sense of accomplishment, but
yeah.
And I don't know if this is just me or if this, this is everybody who's in comics production, indie or even mainstream. But I've always found that the thing that's about to come out, I've already lived with for so long that it's kind of old hat. And I'm excited about the new stuff that I'm working on right now. So like I'm writing 3 and I'm outlining 4, 5, and 6. And so I am super excited about those.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm kind of over issue 1. Like I wanted to get into people's hands, and then once people read it and I get their feedback on it, then my enthusiasm for it will probably rekindle. But right now it's like, okay, I'm one down.
You're on to the next thing. Yeah.
Yeah, one down, more to go. I'm really excited about 2 because right now Renzo's turning in pages for number 2. So every time I get a new page, I'm excited all over again.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always exciting to see new artwork.
It's fantastic. It's like the best feeling in the world. It's second only to physically holding the thing that you've produced.
Right. Yeah. Beautiful stuff. All right, cool.
We
All right.
tried to do a good comic that would make people happy.
Oh, you did it, man. This looks great. It sounds like a lot of fun too.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
everybody went
like,
back to physical copy. I mean, everybody gets stickers too, so that's we could hit all those.
who doesn't love stickers? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll
Yeah. So
probably
this is
like
like,
produce extra stickers just to have like sticker packs on the website. But everybody who orders the book,
right. Yeah.
everybody ordered a physical copy of the book gets them free.
Nice. So this is like an action comedy, right? It's like,
Yeah, it's like the best way to describe it, if you have to compare it to something else, is the Venture Brothers or the Tick or Sam and
okay.
Max. Those are all kind of like my humor sensibilities.
Right.
But much like kind of like the Venture Brothers would have its serious moments, or it would have like things that would happen, that characters would die, and things like that would have, there was actual stakes. So I think there's probably a little bit more stakes in this than there is in the Venture Brothers once we get going. Like there's no the only resurrection is zombie resurrection. So
Okay.
there's no, like, if a character dies, they're not coming back as like, oh, I got better. None of that. None of that.
Yeah.
There's no multiverse. It's just, it is what it is.
Right. It did kind of give me Frisky Dingo kind of vibes.
You're not the first person who said that, and I've actually never seen that show. But like once
Oh,
people were kind of
really?
like, yeah, once people were telling me about it, and I guess it's got a lot of people that I like. I think it's got the actress that played Debbie in, I think her name's Kate. She played Debbie on C Lab 2021. I think someone was telling me that she's in the show, and so it's wild that I never saw it. But yeah, people were kind of like telling me, and this kind of sounds like Frisky Dingo, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
once they told me, I was like, oh, okay.
You got to check it out. I think you would enjoy it. It's basically a villain, and he's kind of like the lead character, and the hero is like this jerk. It's funny. It's hilarious.
A lot of our heroes are jerks, but then again, a lot of the superheroes are jerks too.
Yeah.
Or a lot of supervillains are jerks. So you're gonna get to see like the villains of the past, that are still around from Doomface's day, and then of course all the new villains that have come up since then. And you're really gonna have to see a guy try to claw his way back to the top.
Yeah. Let's see, Killface from Frisky Dingo. Yeah, Killface. That was his name. I couldn't remember
his name. Was that was the thing. It's like people were like, oh, his name's Killface, and I was like, oh, damn it. I guess there really are like no new ideas, right?
Yeah, it looks great. It does.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys checking it out. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and every page inside is gorgeous. Like Renzo and Oscar did such a good job, and that I actually eventually want to do. If this proves popular enough and enough people get into it, I'd like to do an artist edition where there's just none of the lettering. It's just you're just getting like an oversized version of all the with all the pages, so you can see every little bit of detail that they put into it.
Right.
I used to tell that to Silvani too. Is like he would turn in a page and we would get the colors back from Andrew Dalhouse, and I would look it over and I would be like, it's almost too beautiful to cover with my stupid words.
Yeah, this looks great. This looks beautiful. Like I said, guys, the link is down in the description. Hit that link and go back this. Looks great.
Yeah, it's like, and we're real close too, so you're not that far out from getting your digital copy at least, and then physical copies will follow soon after.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, is there anything else you'd like to talk about, say, before we?
If you don't have any more questions for me, I mean, I'm very bored with myself. So like, I've heard myself tell these stories a million times.
Yeah.
But so no, I don't have anything else to say unless you have any other questions. But I appreciate you inviting me on and chatting about the book and chatting about comics in general. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Awesome, cool. I would love to have you come back.
When the book's actually out, we'll do like a stream. People come on and tell me if I succeeded or if I failed.
All right, yeah, I'll read it and I'll tell you about how I felt about it. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll read it live on the air and go, "Why did you do this?"
Wait, what? What's this? Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. That's great. Aaron, thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your experience that you shared with us today.
Yeah, Ben, anytime you need anything or anytime anybody, any of your viewers have any questions about comics or anything like that, you can hit me up on Twitter and I'll do my best to give you an answer.
Awesome. Yeah, I was looking forward to talking to you because you just seem like such a cool guy on X, and such a funny guy too. You post lots of funny stuff and I enjoy it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that somebody gets it. That's why I like my handle is Aaron Sparrow as a jerk. Because I'm like, well, if you don't like the joke, at least you go, well, Truth and
Yeah.
advocacy.
Right. All right, guys. We'll kill the stream here. Thank you guys for watching.